View with anchorman Michael Badger, covering the Champaign, Urbana, and East Peoria areas in central Illinois. This is your news follower, News View, on UPTV6 and Eastside Community Television, Channel 22.
Welcome to News View. I'm Michael Badger, and here's an interview I'm doing this time with Zach Cagle, who works at Channel 15 WICD TV in Champaign, Illinois. Hello, Zach.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, and how did you get to working at WICD?
Well, when I first applied to the station, I heard that they had an open position. And so I applied there, and then I went there for an interview, and I thought it went pretty good. And then they called me back for a second interview, and then they offered me the job that time, and I accepted it, and then I started there around late in 2006. So I've been at the station for pretty close to 7 years.
Okay. And, you know, I did have Doug Quick on one time. I don't know if he'll ever come back, but it was nice to have him the one time.
Sure.
He was here. He's a fountain of information.
Oh,
and
he is.
I just wish I'd asked him about TV history a little, but we mostly talked about radio and TV in his career. But how about you? What do you do at WICD?
My title is operations technician. What I do with that is it's basically all the work that goes on behind the cameras. So I'm out in the studio running the cameras. I run the teleprompter. When I'm not out in the studio, I'm usually in the master control area, running the board with that, logging breaks, running videos. And sometimes I'm in the audio. I'm running audio for the shows, for some of the newscasts, and that's pretty much what I do with that. And then, whenever we're not on the air, if we don't have if there's not a newscast going on, what I usually do is we usually just hang out and just sit around master and just hang out and just do whatever usually.
Okay. Well, Zach Cagle here is our guest tonight on News View. And if you would, just tell the audience, like, what's a typical day for you at Channel 15?
Let's see. When I work the mornings, I usually get there by around 4:30. We're usually setting things up for the morning show, which starts at 5. And so we're setting everything up and turning on the lights, and it takes a few minutes for the lights to warm up, and then we change the batteries for the microphones and put fresh batteries in those, and then the talent usually are getting ready. Katie, our morning weather anchor, is usually working on the weather. Updating the graphics and everything from anything that's changed from overnight, and then the show usually starts at about 5, and then it ends around 7 when Good Morning America comes on, and then we're taping cut-ins that aired during Good Morning America during the local breaks, and we've just started doing the weather live. For a while we were taping news and weather, but recently we've changed that to all weather live. So all the local weather cut-ins, and during the news cut-ins we do weather as well. We do weather live, and we've just started doing that just a couple of weeks ago. So, and then that usually. And that goes as long as Good Morning America does until 9 when our local programming comes on, and usually it's Live with Kelly. I believe that comes on at 9.
Right.
And then I go on break for an hour. I come back at 10. for the View. And if we have to do any taped interviews, we usually do that right around then. By the time everybody gets back at about 10, and then about 10:30 we start getting ready for midday at 11. So, and we always decide who goes out to the studio to run cameras and prompter together. At the time we're taping this, I was in the studio today for midday. So when I went out to the studio, I did the same thing like we did this morning for the morning show, turn on the lights and turn on the cameras and all that other fun stuff. And midday starts at 11 when the View ends, and then so midday starts at 11, and that goes on until about 11:30. And then we're pretty much done for the day after that, and I'm usually done by about 12 on the mornings.
So that's a typical morning job day for you. You ever do the evening?
When I first started at the station, I started off on evenings, and with that, it's I usually get there by about 4:30. Go out to the studio, set everything up, get ready for 5 o'clock news at about 5, and that goes to about 5:30. Then we get a little short break there during the national news, right? And then about 5:45 or so, we start getting ready for 6, and we just leave the lights on since it's so close in between newscasts.
Right.
And then at 6, we do the 6 o'clock news, and that goes to about 6:30. Then after that, we start doing all the tapings and stuff for stuff we do for 10. And that usually includes a couple of 4 or 5 second teasers for the 10 o'clock. And we do a couple of those, and then usually we tape weather for Fox, because we supply the news and weather on Fox.
I believe you do it for 27, and 20 does it for 55.
Right, and we used to do sports locally for Fox here in Urbana, in the Champaign-Urbana area. Normally what we do is we do weather, and then we did sports locally. But now all we do is just weather, because 20 supplies sports now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. And then we're usually done by about 6:45 or so. And then we usually go on break, go grab dinner, and come back about 8. And then just chill out for a little while. And then about 9:30, we get ready for the 10 o'clock. So we go back. So one of us goes back out to the studio and turns everything on and gets everything set up. And then we tape the 10 o'clock. We don't tape it, but we do the 10 o'clock show. And then that's usually done by about 10:30 or so. And then the one last thing we do before we're done for the night is tape sports for the morning show. And then that's usually around 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
And so by then we're done, and then we're usually done by 10:40, 10:45, sometimes 11 at the latest. And then after that, we're done for the night, and then everybody just goes home, and then it's see you next time, or see you tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you can stand to, because Newsview comes on Channel 6 at 9 p.m. Friday night, same time as WCCU and WRSP's news. Maybe you could record both of them and watch both of them if you can stand that. Or maybe catch Newsview again at midnight. We rerun it here at midnight for Friday nights into Saturday mornings. So, and I've been doing this now 5 years. This is year number 6. And you were telling me before we went on here that you had the pleasure of meeting Keith Page right before he died.
Yes, I did. Right when I first started, back in 2006, it was my second or third day at the station, and the one day he was working, I got the chance to meet him, and all the stories I've heard people say about Keith Page were pretty much right on, that he always did this certain thing and this certain thing, and it was pretty cool. I only met him just that one time, right before he passed, but it was pretty cool to meet him.
Well, I remember when I went to school, he did he put on a show. Our school asked him to put on a show, and he did. And he had one where he had a pistol, and he shot the microphone stand, and the thing fell somehow. Wow. I don't know how he did it, but he also did some tricks with handkerchiefs, and he told jokes, and he was very pleasant at school when he did that show put on for us kids.
Yeah. I know he's done some stuff like that back when WICD first got started. I know when Doug, when he was here, you were telling me before we got started that when Doug was here, you were wanting to ask him about local television, and I know on his website, I've read this, back when WICD was had different call letters. I forget what it was, but they used to do local programming. It was like, and I know Keith Page used to do all the puppetry for this certain show. I forget what it was, but
WCHU.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's it.
Channel 33.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
And I know he used to do that. I know a few years ago, to commemorate, I think it was the 50th anniversary of one of the stations. I think it was of ICD, one of the previous stations. I think it was either CHU or WDAN.
Yeah, WDAN, I think.
I think it was. They were showing this. Doug did this story about it, and it had some clips of Keith Page doing some of his puppetry shows, and I thought it was pretty cool. And so when I did the one and only time I ever met Keith Page, it was pretty cool to just meet him, and it was a very cool thing to I guess happen. I don't know.
I think he worked at WILL originally back in the 50s, and then WICD, but I don't remember for sure, but I think so. I think he did stuff on Mr. Otto's General Store.
I think that might have been the shop, but I'm not really sure.
I think. But anyway, so he when he was at the Inman Hotel, my family had moved here at that time, and they were staying at the Inman Hotel.
Oh, okay.
And some of the people in my family would watch him doing Window on the Weather at the Inman Hotel during that time. And I think it was like my uncle and my mom would watch him through the door doing that. So
that's cool.
That goes back. Well, I think we'll take a break and come back. Thank you, Mr. Cagle, for coming on. We might come back with him, we might not, but thank you for coming on. And
thank you very much for having me.
Depends on how much time's left. We'll go to a break. Welcome back to Newsview. In case you're just tuning in or if you forgot, I'm Michael Badger, and this is My guest today is Zach Cagle, who works at WICD TV in Champaign, Illinois. So we're back, and you say you have some stories from the TV station.
Yeah. Depending on a few, depends on what's going on. There are times where the station, or things at the station can be a little crazy. Like, for example, on a Friday night during high school football season, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks, which I'm really looking forward to. Sometimes we have anybody who's available. We usually have people go out to all the games we're going to cover for high school football, for our show that we do for highlighting high school football during sports, and the show's called Friday Night Blitz. And usually what we do is we have people go out to all the different games that we're going to feature, or we get them from Springfield, from our sister station at Channel 20 in Springfield, if they're covering the games as well. Anybody from the Champaign area or Danville. And I can remember one night, Josh Samuels, our former sports director, he was, when he walked into the studio, he was saying that they didn't have a lot of the videos that we were wanting to show over the highlights online. And so our producer was trying to get people's attention in the newsroom to trying to get these videos online. It was either that, or if they were online, he didn't have a sheet with all the highlights on them. So one night, I can remember this very well. I was working nights at the time, and Josh walks into the studio, and he's going through all of his notes, all the highlight sheets he has, and he's missing a couple. He's talking to the producer at the time. I forget what his name was. I think it was Eric. I don't remember. But
would that be Eric Rinderly?
No, it wasn't. No, it was somebody
I'm
else.
getting mixed up. Yeah.
It was somebody else. I don't remember what his name was. But anyway, Josh was talking to our producer, and they were talking to the people back in the newsroom, trying to get these videos online. And Josh was a, we need this now and very quickly kind of situations. So what we did was, if Josh didn't have the shot sheet, he just tried to ad-lib, and he wasn't really a big fan of trying to ad-lib unless he had his notes in front of him of the particular game we were showing. And so one time we tried to do, I forget what it was. I think we tried to do a couple of live shots, and we tried to do one in Danville, but for whatever reason it wasn't working out at all, and Josh wasn't very happy about it, and he wasn't very thrilled that we couldn't get the shot from Danville. So we just did what we could, and we just went on with it, and so we showed the rest of the highlights from all the games. And by the time we finished the show and got off the air, Josh was pretty much at a loss for words, and he just really was not having a good night. It seemed to me like he thought everything was just going wrong and nothing was working, so that just gives you an example of, at times things can be a little crazy around the station. I can think of one other thing, like when we have breaking news and we have to cut away from whatever we're showing.
Right.
For example, there was a trial we were covering of a local story we did a few years ago. I forget what it was. It was, and we were going to do when I got to the station that day, I was scheduled to come in a little earlier than normal, just to run master control for a couple of hours. And so my my boss was telling me that we had to do this cut-in for this trial we were doing, and the verdict came, and we got note that the verdict came down, and they were about to deliver the verdict. So we were going to do a live shot from the courthouse back at the station, and then our reporter was, I guess you can say, either running late or something else. And so we were trying to get this on the air as soon as possible. And so what we ended up doing was we got the live shot all ready to go. Our reporter finally got there, and we decided, and then we broke away from programming to do this breaking news story about this trial. And so, and I can remember that everybody was just running around pretty hectically trying to get everything all set and ready to go. And by the time we got everything done, everybody was relieved that we got this all taken care of, and it was like one of the main stories we were going to do for the news that night.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you another idea of how things can be crazy at the station, I guess.
Yeah, it can be hard work sometimes too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that. And thank you, Zach Cagle, who works at WICD TV Channel 15 in Champaign, Illinois, for coming on Newsview.
Thank you very much for having me.
And here's your weekend weather, Central Illinois. Friday night, 58 degrees with mostly clear skies. Saturday, sunny and 85 degrees. Saturday night, mostly clear and 60 degrees. Sunday, partly cloudy with a high of 91 degrees. And Sunday night, partly cloudy with a low of 70. This has been your Central Illinois weather from Newsview.